Krishnai Shigave Namaha. So I guess I'll just give the lecture about second initiation before the fire sacrifice, so we have a chance to prepare everything. So we're going to speak about the second, or the Brahman initiation. As everybody knows, we have different types of initiation in the Vedic system and in the Krishna consciousness movement. The first initiation we have, of course, is called the Hari Nam initiation. And that's called the Bhagavad Vidhi, the path of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So Bhagavad Vidhi worships Bhagavan. And of course in Kali Yuga, that's the greatest necessity, chanting the Lord's holy names. Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vidanahi Tari Pravartana. That's the authorized process. And so the second initiation is called the Pancharatriki initiation. Now, that's a tantric initiation. And most people think of tantric when they hear the word tantra. They think of things like voodoo and black magic and people eating out of skulls. Generally, someone says, I'm a tantric. But tantra, the word tantra, means simply to connect through different rituals, different procedures, different rituals. And so the purpose of connecting through all these procedures and rituals is to connect to the Supreme Personality of God and ultimately to chant the Lord's holy names purely. So that's the purpose of the Tantra. And there's other types of initiation too that we have in the Krishna conscious movement. One is the sannyasa initiation, where one vows to give up all personal, let's say, motivation to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there's other types of initiation that are not in the Krishna conscious movement, such as the Vedic initiation. Vedic means performing sacrifice according to the ancient Vedic rituals and the Rig Veda and the Sama Veda and the Yajur Veda. That's the Vedic initiation. Of course, that Vedic initiation we couldn't give in the Krishna consciousness movement. First of all, because we're not initiated in the Vedic path. And therefore, I don't have that authorization. And secondly, because those who were not born in Brahmin families shouldn't be taking that Vedic initiation. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in the Jaiva Dharma. It's just not appropriate for those people. And it's a ritualistic type of initiation anyway. You don't need it. You don't need it. Probably if you do it, you'll probably become proud and think yourself better than the devotees, and it'll be a detriment to your Krishna consciousness. But anyway, no one here was born in a Brahmin family. I don't think anyone here has the last name of Trivedi or Chaturvedi or Dvivedi. Usually, your last name is some European name. At most, you're from one of the Kshatriya caste that was kicked out of India by Parashuram. That's at most. At worst, I'm not going to say worst, what it is. Anyway, it's not so bad to be a Kshatriya caste, is it? Kicked out of India, ran away from Parashuram. My ancestors ran away from Parashuram. So this Pancharatrika initiation is effective and meant for those who can reach the mode of goodness. And the mode of goodness is a very important standard for those who want to advance in devotional service. As we know, there are three modes of nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Of course, in ignorance, basically one just tries to enjoy the senses right now. As they say, there was one famous book in the 1960s that said, "Be here now." I guess it's a type of mindfulness. I don't know if any of you heard of mindfulness. People think that if you're right in the moment, then you're going to be spiritual. You know, be just like, I guess, right now I'm breathing. So I'm just conscious of my breathing. I'm conscious of how warm or cold it is. Just be in the moment. Now, there's something to be said about being in the moment in Krishna consciousness. Because if you're not, then you're doing niyam agraha. Niyam agraha means, basically, you're not in the moment. You're not doing mindfulness in Krishna consciousness. Mindfulness is not bad if it's applied properly, but if it's just applied to your physical symptoms, you know, being mindful as you're skiing down the slopes in the middle of the winter, right? Or surfing the waves in the middle of the summer. Of course, you don't have surfing here. You're very unfortunate. So, probably call the surfers sufferers. So, but our mindfulness is being aware of what we're doing, when we're doing, and why we're doing what we're doing when we're doing it. Does everyone understand that? In other words, when you're chanting some prayer to Krishna, or to the spiritual master, or to the great Vaishnavas, just think of the meaning and let it come from the heart. Because devotional service is executed with the heart. I mean, the brain could be there too, hopefully. And the body should be there too. But really it's the heart, the emotion, the bhav, that one should be executing devotional service. It's called devotional service. I mean, how many times do we say devotional service, bhakti yoga? It means devotion. It doesn't mean simply yat karosi yat nasi yasya hoshi dadasya yata pashashi kanti tad karoshwa navarpanam. It doesn't simply mean whatever you do, whatever you offer, give it unto Krishna. It means whatever you do, whatever you offer, do unto Krishna with love at the same time. Like Krishna's another famous verse, Patram Pushpam Pravam Toyam. Yomi Bhakta Riyajati. If one offers me with love and devotion, I will accept it. So that's really the point, to be mindful as one's doing their devotional service, and then you make a lot of spiritual advancement. So anyway, so one in the mode of ignorance is probably pretty mindful when they're conscious of their enjoyment. And one in the mode of passion, anyway, in ignorance, you just think of gross bodily enjoyment. It's like the Pranamoya platform. And one in the mode of passion, he's planning for his enjoyment in the future. So much wealth do I have today? So much more will I get tomorrow? So he's never satisfied with any quantity of wealth. And then one in the mode of goodness. One in the mode of goodness is thinking of the unity of all spirit souls. It's nice. He's peaceful. He or she is peaceful. Thinking of the unity of all spirit souls, how we're all in here. Yastu sarvani bhutani atman eva anupashati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam patogapagupshate. One of the mode of goodness has no enemies, doesn't hate anybody, loves everybody. Of course, one of the mode of goodness may avoid someone who is inimical, but they don't hate the person who is inimical. So that mode of goodness is the point from which one can jump off into the spiritual world. It's important to cultivate the mode of goodness, the material mode of goodness. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has so many descriptions. If you go and you count the verses in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll find more verses about the modes of nature and the material world than you will find about Krishna, basically. Which is interesting. That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, why? Why does Krishna just speak about the spiritual world, the material world so much, when we simply want to dance with him or play with him or whatever we're going to do in the spiritual world? Well, the reason Krishna talks about that is because that's where we are. And in order to get out, you have to understand what is productive and what is not productive. You have to understand where you are first. Vidya avidya. As the scribe also, Upanishad describes, that one has to cultivate knowledge of the material world and knowledge of the spiritual world. Knowledge of the material world because with the modes of nature and everything like that, and knowledge of the material world also because we have to understand how to use the material world in Krishna's service. Prabhupada actually said, I was listening to a class this morning, Prabhupada was saying that we should know something about everything. You understand? Something about everything. In other words, a devotee, if someone asks them, for example, what year is this? A devotee shouldn't say, I don't know. I've just been reading Prabhupada's book so much. Last year, I actually checked, it was like 1971 when I joined the Hare Krishna movement. What day of the week is it? Well, how many days are there in the week? So, can you imagine? And sometimes devotees are like that. They'll be on Sankirtan, the person will say, what do you think about World War III that just happened? And the devotee says, I didn't know World War III just happened. I thought there was just fireworks going off. So anyway, so there has to be knowledge of the material world as well as the spiritual world in order. That's what the Isopanishad teaches us. And of course, the spiritual world, obviously, so we can get attached to Krishna. So a Brahmana, he likes to cultivate knowledge. Not simply for the sake of knowledge, but for self-realization. Therefore, you have these qualities listed in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita about what it means to be a Brahmin. And these are mode of goodness qualities. And of course, the first one is sama. Sama means being equal poised, like samadarshi, seen equally. Not only equal poise in happiness and distress, pleasure and pain, whatever, summer and winter seasons. Hard to beat the equal poise in this season right now. It's pretty cold. So, anyway, but being equal poise insofar as dealing with people. Like Krishna is also equal poised. He says in the Gita, same word, samaham, sarvabhuteshu, name dveshu, stina priyaha. He said, I'm equal to everyone. No one's a friend to me, no one's an enemy. Like that. So we should be like that, equal. And of course, reciprocate with people as Krishna does. Krishna, even though Krishna is equal, he says, Ye tamam prapajante tam sataiva pajamiham. As someone reciprocates with me, I reciprocate with him. So, sama is very important, just to be equal to her. Dhamma. Dhamma is actually maybe even more important. Dhamma means being self-controlled. And the opposite of that is adhamma, or as Prahlad Maharaj says in the Bhagavatam, adanda gopir vishatam tamishram, punaschara vitachara vananam. He says, if those who are not self-controlled, those who cannot control their senses and their mind, he says they're just simply engaged in fruitless activities, fruitless repetitive activities, which he describes as chewing the already chewed. Punaschar, vichachar, vananam. Tadandagopir vishatam tamishram. And they enter into ignorance. Punaschar, vitachar, vananam. Anyway, he's saying this, it's interesting, he's saying this to his father. Imagine giving that instruction to his father. Dear Dad, Matirna Krishna Padatos Vatova Mado Padyeta Graha Vartanam. He says, because you have actually taken a vow of sense gratification. Matirna Krishna, you don't want Krishna because he killed your brother. I can emphasize with Hiranyakashipu, because if someone killed my brother, I'd be pretty angry with him. Sometimes, actually it's interesting, with devotees sometimes one of their loved ones will die and they get angry at Krishna because of that. So it's the same thing. That's Hiranyakashipu consciousness. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying that Matirna Krishna Parato. So because you don't want Krishna, then even if you have good association or, try on your own, you'll never be Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada said in one class, he said he's assuring his father that don't worry, you won't be Krishna conscious. Because his father is worried. Here's my son becoming Krishna conscious. What's going to happen to me? And so he says, Dad, don't worry. And there's no way you're going to become Krishna conscious because you're completely against Krishna. And don't worry, Dad, you're simply going to be chewing the chewed. Trying to enjoy this body. Anyway, so that's a Dhamma. One has to control the senses. How do you control the senses? It's hard. Control the senses by Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, Bhakti. Okay, by judging the senses in Krishna's service. Samadhamma tapa. And the next quality of a Brahmin is austerity, tapa. Actually, that's basically the first word spoken in this universe, isn't it? Lord Brahma was meditating, trying to figure out how to do things. And then the first instruction he gets from his Guru Maharaj, he didn't have a choice of Guru Maharajas. It's not that he went around looking for the right guru. So there was only one guru at that time, that was Krishna. And anyway, so he heard tapa. And so tapa basically means to cause some pain. Anyway, I'm not going to give that direct definition right now. To act against one's material, it's a little painful sometimes, to act against one's material inclinations, physical inclinations, mental inclinations, to serve Krishna. Because our natural inclination is just to be absorbed in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. I mean, if you just take away whatever intelligence we have, then we become like the monkeys. I mean, human beings have the ability to be more than monkeys. That's like with monkeys. We see a lot of monkeys. I'm not talking about anybody here in particular. I'm talking about in Vrindavan. We were talking to one devotee yesterday who just came back from Vrindavan. She said, I really love the monkeys. Isn't it? I'm thinking, huh? What's wrong with her? I said, did the monkeys try to steal your glasses? Yes, but that was cute. Well, I never found it cute when monkeys stole my glasses. That is not cute. Anyway, but the monkeys, what they're engaged in is, they see another monkey, female monkey or male monkey, and they go for it, they fight the monkeys. You see the monkeys, sometimes they're missing legs because the other monkey bit their leg off, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And the worst thing is when you go to Vrindavan, don't walk under a tree where a monkey is, because they're so mischievous they'll pass urine on your head. They do that sometimes. So, anyway, so we have higher intelligence, so we're meant, just to really, I wouldn't say cause pain like the word tapa means, but just go against some natural or unnatural impulses that we have in the body. And, that includes anger, like Vacho Vegam, Manasa, Kroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Pasta Vegam. We have these impulses, these pushings that Vacho, talking, Vegam, pushing and talking. Manasa, the mind is there. Kroda, anger. Jiva, tongue. Jiva Vegam, Udara Pasta, belly, the generals. I mean, they're all just pushing us, and you just say no. No. And the mind too. Manasa. You beat the mind like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, with a stick, with the shoes every day. Like that. Don't do it literally, because that may cause you a concussion. So you beat the mind with shoes, and you no, I'm going to serve Krishna. That's tapa. Someone talks about shoja. And then cleanliness. Cleanliness is part of being in the mode of goodness. If everything's neat and clean, the mind's very peaceful. And if the body's clean, then you're less likely to get sick. Prabhupada said disease is caused by different factors. Uncleanliness, and anxiety, like that. These are causes of disease. So, and actually, mental states, they actually are a big cause of disease. So, anyway, Shaucham, and then, of course, Prabhupada said one should be clean internally as well as externally. Internally by always Yaksmaret Pundarikaksham, by always remembering the lotus-eyed Lord, and externally by bathing, keeping everything clean, cleaning your cloth every day. And then tolerance, shantir, arjanam, honesty, ivacha. And then cultivating knowledge, we mentioned before, of both the spiritual realm and the material realm, jnanam, vijnanam, and practicing what you've learned. Astikyam, Ramakarma, Svabhavajam. So these are the qualities of a Brahman. So how does one attain these qualities of a Brahman? There's the long process. Actually, I wanted to talk about the long process, and there's the short process. And I have a note on the long process here in case you want to follow it. So we're going to talk about, actually we advocate the short process, not the long process. But the long process is something that was performed by Vishwamitra Muni. So here's the story of Vishwamitra Muni, a little story to entertain you. Once upon a time, Vishwamitra Muni wanted to become a Brahmin. And he was a Kshatriya in the mode of passion. So I'm not going to tell you why he wanted to become a Brahmin, because I'll tell you why. He wanted to defeat Vasishta Muni. And Vasishta Muni had defeated him and killed his children and everything like that through his mystic powers. So what happened is that Vishwamitra became very depressed. He began to execute many severe austerities, not having anything to do with Krishna. And he got weapons from Lord Shiva and other demigods like that, and he attacked the ashram of Vishwamitra Muni, attacked the ashram of Vasishta Muni. And Vasishta Muni was able to counteract all the weapons of Vishwamitra Muni with his Brahminical staff. So Vishwamitra Muni decided, I need to execute more austerities, so he went to South India and became a vegan. And he only ate raw food. It's true, this is what's described in different literatures, Vedic literatures. That's why I'm a vegan. So when he began to perform austerities in Pushkara. Pushkara is the place of Lord Brahma, the only place where Lord Brahma is worshipped in Kali Yuga. And then he was blessed to become a Rajarshi, not quite a Brahmin at that point. He became more depressed. I mean, this is taking place over hundreds or thousands of years in becoming a Brahmin. So this is not what we're advocating, but at least we're telling you about the long process. And then he was approached by this person, Trishanku, who wanted to go to heaven. He was a king. He wanted to go to heaven in his same body. And this Trishanku had been cursed by Vasishta Muni, or rejected by Vasishta Muni, and cursed by Vasishta Muni's sons to become a Malacha, which is even worse. Malacha means a mode of ignorance, basically. And so then he went, Trishanku went to Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra performed a sacrifice to send him to heaven in his Malacha body. And what happened is the demigods didn't want that. They sent him back down, and then Vishwamitra sent him back up, and he was bouncing back and forth, and finally Vishwamitra had to establish an artificial second heavenly planet so this guy could enjoy himself while he was hanging upside down. I don't know how you can enjoy yourself when you're hanging upside down, but anyway. So he was struggling, and by doing this stuff in the mode of passion, because this was actually mode of passion, he kept losing his position in attaining the Brahminical status. So then he began to perform more austerities in Pushkara, thinking, I want to be a Brahmin, I want to be a Brahmin. And as I described before, he was still a raw vegan. And then a bird passed stool on his head. And that happens, when you're chanting under a tree. All of a sudden you'll feel blood. It's happened to me. And so, it does. Birds don't have any control over themselves. You can't train a bird like you could train a dog. So then he cursed the bird, and he burnt the bird to ashes with his mystic power, and he lost his Brahminical status then. Then he had more fights with Vashishta Muni, and he lost his Brahminical status even more. And anyway, there's so many stories. Then he performed more austerities, and Menaka came after 1,000 years. Menaka is the Heavenly Society girl, and he had an attraction to her, and as a result, Shakuntala was born, and he still couldn't become a Brahmin. Then he meditated after another 1,000 years, and Ramba came, another Heavenly Society girl, to trick him. And he didn't fall down with her, but he got so angry, he just, made her, actually it's described several different stories. One is he cursed her to become a stone for 1,000 years. In other stories, he burned her. In other stories, she became disincarnate. But anyway, he cursed her. And then he lost his Brahminical status. And then for 1,000 more years, he executed austerity. And Indra tested him, asking him for food when he was getting ready to break his fast. And he just remained cool, and then he was finally blessed with becoming a Brahmin. So that's the long process. Does anyone want to follow that long process? It's not very easy to follow that particular long process. So the short process, becoming a Brahmin, because remember, he was a Kshatriya before, which is probably a higher status than most of us were before we joined the Krishna consciousness movement. I can say I was not a Kshatriya. I was not, before I joined the Krishna consciousness movement, a Vaishya. I was not a Shudra before I joined the Krishna consciousness movement. I was a Malecha. And so, I don't know, maybe some of you were not Malechas, but most of us were Malechas. And so, for the mercy of Prabhupada, I'm here today, somehow or other sitting on this seat, pretending to be a devotee. So, our process is Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo, Disteva, Disteva, Snake, Disteva, Katyananita. Taking shelter of Krishna's names and serving those who are on a higher status of life. For example, whatever Krishna consciousness or whatever Brahminical qualities I have are coming from associating with Srila Prabhupada. Because when you associate with someone, the qualities of that person rub off on you. Like Krishna says in the Gita, it's about the material qualities, karma, guru, sangasya, sadasa, and majonisha, that we're entangled in this world because of guna sangha. So we have sadhu sangha, that is sadhu sangha, sarvasastrakoi, lavamantra sadhu sangha, sarvasiddhi hoy. And even a little association with the sadhu, such as Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, can bring us to the Brahminical platform. Just a little association. And if we try on our own through mental speculation or austerities like Vishwamitra Muni, it may take many lifetimes, thousands of births and whatever. So it's better we associate with Prabhupada. So we associate with Prabhupada by hearing about Prabhupada, by following Prabhupada's directions in Krishna consciousness. And, one thing I want to add, the purpose of Brahminical initiation is to serve Prabhupada's mission. Not that one finds a way to make money by being a Brahmin, by doing sacrifices. Yashan, yashan, patan, patan. Dana pratigraha. Traditionally a Brahmin would make money by doing sacrifices, by teaching, by giving charity, accepting charity, etc. So the purpose of becoming a Brahmin is to actually serve Prabhupada's mission. So, the devotee who's taking brahminical initiation today is taking so she can serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada, particularly an almond scar, which has a panchatattva there too. The little panchatattva, this small. We are better, we have big panchatattva. No, not really. Actually, the deities are not dependent upon the size. Then you get more mercy by getting a big deity. Otherwise, we would get panchatattva that's 50 meters high. Like, that was more mercy. Sometimes you go into South India, take tour of South India, and you see they have deities of Hanuman, or statues of Hanuman, that are like 40 or 50 meters high. Seriously, as high as this building. When you enter into a village, you see a giant Hanuman there. Pretty ecstatic. Of course, Prabhupada didn't want us to have statues or deities outside because the same reason Vishwamitra Muni got upset with the bird. Because the birds pass stool on the statues or the deities. Prabhupada commented on that in Calcutta, there's statues of different political leaders, and Prabhupada said once a year the municipal sweeper comes out and sweeps off the bird stool off of the statue. So, anyway, so that's the purpose of second initiation in ISKCON, is to actually serve the deities, to do deity worship. I mean, just to take second initiation to be proud or something like that, that's called Brahma Bandhu. It's interesting. Now, yeah, it's interesting. I was just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that Hiranyakashipu called Sangha and Marka Brahma Bandhus. Do you know why? Because he was thinking that they were teaching Prahlad Maharaj about Vaishnavism. So he insulted them. He said, "You're Brahma Bandhus, you're not real Brahmanas, because you're not teaching them about demoniac things like you should be." So, anyway, so if one wants to be a real Brahmin, then one has to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada somehow or other. That's the purpose. And everybody who takes second initiation should do some deity service. It should not be simply done by one person in the temple. Everybody should do this. Prabhupada said that everybody should do at least some deity service once a week. In one of our temples, in the temple of North Carolina, we have the congregation doing a lot of deity worship. They come on different days and do deity worship. They may be married, they may have kids, but one day a week, they come, they wake up early, they go to Mangal Arati, they dress the deities in the morning, or they cook for the Sunday feast. It's a very nice cooperative atmosphere. So, anyway, so this is second initiation, is brahminical initiation, and one is promising this initiation, as in all initiations, including sannyasa initiation, or whatever, some scars we perform to serve Krishna. Okay, so we'll continue with the initiation ceremony. So we ready? Of course, Brahmin also gets the candidate to be Brahmin. Of course, you're not Brahmin just by taking the initiation, you're Brahmin by having the qualities. The candidate gets the Gayatri Mantra. And Gayatri Mantra brings one closer to Krishna and the spiritual master. Okay? So you ready?
We move this up.
Yeah, move my asana. Okay. So we're gonna.
You can sit.
Oh, you're gonna move me while I'm sitting?
Like a swing.
That's called a palanquin, not an asana.
Hare Krishna movement.
Oh, thank you. Yes, the Hare Krishna movement.